What the? Ray!
What's good, guys? It is GN151515. Come back with another Naruto Part 1 video. And as you guys can see in the title of this video, any clip we played during the intro, you know, this is going to be basically conveying and going over, you know, what the title says. Chunin exam, Sasuke and Final Valley. Sasuke is far weaker than you think. And I do want to make a clarification with you guys really quick, because I don't want this video to seem like it's either dishonest or like some weird hate agenda on Sasuke or anything like that. That's not what we're doing here. We're always going to be objective as possible, and whenever there is any subjectivity or contentiousness, obviously we'll try to, you know, be unbiased and you know, be as logical as possible as we can. But the most important thing with this video and that we're going to be conveying is basically just going over the common misconceptions that has been shown with the character with Sasuke during part 1. You know, going over all the highball scalings people typically like to do with him, and just basically to establish that he isn't like the #1 or the strongest out of the entire Konoha 12, you know what I mean? And just, you know, in general, you know, like, it's, for some reason there's always like a weird emphasis that some fans of Sasuke have, whether they're biased or it's incompetence or just simply ignorance. But, you know, again, that's what we basically want to do for the sake of this video. And just, again, to clarify, like, Sasuke, he's a very formidable ninja, has tons and tons of impressive showings. He's literally considered a genius for a reason. Even Orochimaru was interested in him ever since the Force to Death and so on and so forth, you know. And just some examples for the impressive showings that he has had during part 1 of Naruto. One just like right off the whip, which is during the retrieval arc, where like Shikamaru's talking into his head, he's sweating, he's like, among my peers he was outstanding in every respect, he was certainly superior to me, but him, you know, and if that's the case, this mission would call for a small 4-man team comprised solely of joining and tuning, you know what I mean, like, and so on and so forth. Like, even Shikamaru holds Sasuke to like a high regard, you know, and he even conceded that Sasuke was even stronger than him. You know, and then there is tons of, you know, ninjas, like high-level ninja, that were always impressed with Sasuke's prowess and talent, to where even someone like Guys, like, he couldn't even believe he mastered the Chidori, and so this is what the Uchiha clan is capable of. And you even have, like, during the preliminary tuning exams where, like, Sasuke, you know, he's able to replicate the taijutsu sequence moves, like that, you know, during the Lotus sequence, and where Lee just said, like, in just one encounter, he managed to, you know, acquire and master the moves I used on him. Quite a secret weapon, the Sharingan. Sasuke isn't someone to underestimate. He'll only get stronger as time goes on. I feel a little afraid. Kind of like, you know, reinforces and like just is very impressed, to where he's like, the moves of the Lotus you know, series is a sequence of high-speed taijutsu physical skills which requires a body that's been gradually trained and honed over a long period of time. The Lotus, you know, isn't a simple thing that could be mastered in a single day, even though the use of the Sharingan and the expressiveness of that final move, like student like teacher Kakashi, are all your kids the same kind of punk you were? You know, and then they even say, like, you know, there's last year's top rookie Neji Hyuga. It looks like this year will be a Uchiha Sasuke. If they fought each other, who would win? You know, and it always, like, immediately just right there and then brought up, like, you know, the emphasis of, like, who actually is the better guy? Is it Neji or is it Sasuke? We even saw a glimpse of this even during the Force of Death, whenever, like, Sasuke channels the curse mark using CM1 activation, you know, and Neji even acknowledges his power and says he's a formidable, you know, ninja, you know, and then Kakashi says in his head he's quite a boy, coming into the full flower of his Sharingan ability at such a young age. Kimimaro during the preliminary, where he's being like a weirdo and fucking licking his goddamn lips, and he's like brilliant, and he's really amazed at what Sasuke was able to do while in the condition he was in, because in the preliminaries he was extremely nerfed. He couldn't even utilize chakra for taijutsu or just anything. He couldn't use a Sharingan, whatever, blah blah, and he literally did the impossible and still won the fight. So like, And then you even have like the moment during the final tuning exams where Lee is like, Sasuke, you really are an amazing genius. It took me years to achieve that level of speed, but you attained it in just 1 month. You know, however, maintaining that speed, you know, so it spends like, you know, a good amount of energy, etc. You know, so like again, just to really like make it simple, you know, Sasuke is no laughing matter, and he's definitely no slouch. And you even have like way early on in the Land of the Waves where like he's getting slammed by Zabuza's, you know, water clone, as you can see in the scans that have been shown on the screen, you know, and then eventually like during like a time skip when he does like chakra control training, he gets even stronger and he's able to deal with like multiple Zabuza water clones, you know. So like again, you know, Sasuke has always had like, you know, that potential and that raw genius element of, you know, him being a Uchiha and just truly being a top tier shinobi, you know. And even Hiruzen, when he saw that when Sasuke utilized Kakashi's technique, you know, the Chidori, he was blown away and like sweating. He's like, that's Kakashi's, you know. So like again, you know, like Sasuke is definitely no slouch. So I just want to make that very crystal clear. Sasuke is very strong, and if anything, bare minimum, he's in the top 5 out of all the Konoha 12, or within, you know, like that, in comparison to all the high tiers, whatever, or at least in the top 10. If you can't argue he's the weakest, and you definitely can't say he's not within the top 10. Like that's just crazy, you know. And then lastly as well, like, you know, the most biggest impressive thing Sasuke has ever been shown to do during part 1 was his Chidori feat against Gaara, where he was able to make him bleed and go through his like sand walls and basically go through the most durable character, you know, within the series, you know, if we're obviously like excluding Kimimaro the Bone Man, you know. So like he even accomplished that feat because, you know, he just had insane AP power with the Chidori. So again, like, you know, Sasuke is no laughing matter. Alright, so the first thing we're going to be getting into, guys, is basically the misconceptions for Sasuke, and this is really important for the scaling of the video, and main reason B is because, you know, there is tons of misconceptions that people have with Sasuke, when it comes to his precog, or the Chidori, and even like his speed scaling and so on and so forth, and then him being in correspondence to Neji or Rock Lee as well, things like that. So that's basically what we're going to be going over in this portion of the video. So the first misconception I wanted to go over, and this is just the easiest and most straightforward thing to know, but a lot of people actually didn't know this, so this is why I wanted to cover it. But there are people that do believe that as long as Sasuke can perceive or see you, then meaning therefore he's able to react and automatically scale to you. And that's not true at all. As a matter of fact, it's stated to the opposite, to where Rock Lee flat out tells him when he's beating him up when it's weightedly against Sasuke in the tuning exams, where he's like, even if you can perfectly perceive and understand movements, you lack the speed and strength to counter them. You haven't had the physical training necessary to keep up with me. It doesn't matter what your eye can see if your body is too weak to act. So again, it's just flat out stated verbatim. That's just not how that works and operates. And we literally have feats to even substantiate that statement, to where Sasuke can see Rock Lee, but he can't do anything about it because the physical gap is just too far. The discrepancy. The next misconception, and this is probably one of the most important things to discuss in this video with Sasuke, is literally how the Chidori basically operates, what it is able to do, and how it works, and whether or not if it's actually a massive speed amp that everybody claims it to be, or if it's just a small speed amp, or just no amp at all. And to also, you know, as a matter of fact, guys, I did make a video on that, is the Chidori a speed amp, and I'll put that in the link in the description down below. So if you guys do want a full analysis and in-depth explanations of going over the technique Chidori and just covering everything about it, all the statements, the feats with it, etc., to really conclude and determine whether or not if it is an amp, then I highly suggest to check that video out if you want the full analysis on that. But since we have already covered that in a video, Rock Lee's scaling video recently, you know, with that being said, we're just going to make this short and concise and try to keep it as simple as possible. You know, so when it comes to the Chidori, the first thing people always tend to forget, there's a statement we actually get with Rock Lee, to where he flat out says, I understand if that had been me, I wouldn't have launched a head-on full speed attack on my opponent like that, or rather, I couldn't have. A beeline attack is easy to counter or avoid, and I don't have the eye to perceive and see through that counter. Now this is really important because this actually becomes a consistent thing shown and demonstrated throughout the series, whether if it's with Kid Kakashi, with Sasuke, Boruto, Sasuke, and Madara, or with even Naruto and Boruto himself as well. And when I say Naruto, I'm speaking about when Naruto is using the Rasengan, or if Boruto is even using the Rasengan. So the reason why this is important, guys, is main reason B is the Chidori is literally a beeline attack. And a lot of people always have this, you know, misconception that the way the Chidori works is similar to the gates, like the first gate or, you know, the other gates, to where you just get so freaking fast with it, you could just be a speed blitz tier above your opponent and then just blitz him, right? Well, that's not actually how it works. So the way the Chidori actually operates is there's certain requirements for the Chidori. And I'll eventually show those requirements as well, those statements and the feats and so on and so forth. But the variables and requirements is you need to retain a certain level of speed in order to use the attack, which makes sense, right? Because logically speaking, if you're not equal to your opponent or relative to your opponent, then you're not going to be able to land the attack, right? That's like a human A having a knife in his hand and he's trying to stab human B, but if human B is like way more faster or way more agile than human A, he's not landing anything, right? And he'll just get countered or just avoid the attack, right? So that's the first thing. You need to require a certain level of speed and be pretty fast in order to use the technique. Second, okay, you need to have an enormous amount of chakra, which obviously Sasuke would have, due to all the statements that we do know in the series. And then three, most importantly, the most important thing is the Sharingan, having the Tutomo and having precognition to successfully land the attack. And this is really, really important because this becomes a very consistent thing with Sasuke. People always confuse themselves and always have this misconception that Sasuke's strongest weapon and tool was the Chidori itself. But as a matter of fact, Sasuke's most valuable weapon and asset was the Sharingan and the precognition that he gets throughout the series. And this is really, really important, and there's also evidence and statements and feats to substantiate that as well. The thing we actually get to see is, with Sasuke when he's fighting against Shikaku Gaara, when he's in his one-tail state where he says, I can't even dodge him without taking time to predict his moves, aim dodging. Without the Sharingan, I would already be dead. So he never says that, oh, without the Chidori or anything like that. He literally says without the two-tomal Sharingan. For the feats, when we see Kid Kakashi, who's the first user to ever utilize the Chidori, to where even he almost died by a Jonin, and Minato actually had to save him because basically the guy was able to perceive and counterattack him. And Minato just flat out tells him, hey, it's an incomplete jutsu because you're vulnerable, and people could be able to easily dodge or counter a beeline attack because that's literally what the Chidori is. To where like Obito is using this precognition when he's fighting the Jonin ninja with Kakashi, and they're equal to this ninja or whatever, and then when Obito uses precog and aim dodges, he's able to create an opening, and Kakashi's able to land a taijutsu sword slice on the ninja when before they couldn't land any blows on him at all. And we see this again where Kakashi with the Sharingan, he has an equal exchange with the Jonin, and basically the Jonin, splits his sword apart. Then Kakashi takes a step back, activates the Chidori, and he's still equal to the ninja. They're still moving at the same speed, and Kakashi's able to aim dodge and then successfully land the Chidori. And even Kakashi concedes and says flat out, Obito, you helped me perfect my jutsu. So again, the Chidori has always been contingent upon not only you acquiring a certain level of speed in order to utilize the Chidori, okay, but to also have precognition in order to see the person's counterattack, and then most importantly, obviously having enough chakra to do the technique itself, So again, there's certain level requirements, and this strictly conveys a simple notion that the Chidori is literally just a high-level lightning AP ninjutsu attack. It's not anything remotely to do with just giving you like an insane simply just a very high level offensive destructive AP attack, and this is eventually also even reinforced even in Boruto as well in the manga and in the anime. The statements when Sasuke is doing the training arc to teach Sadara the Chidori, he literally explains how the Chidori operates. He says the Chidori is a linear jutsu, a beeline attack, that gives you a high level of offensive power. So again, he's not saying that it makes you insanely fast or anything like that. He's simply just saying it just gives you incredible AP power, okay? And this makes sense, and this is consistent because we literally have the feats to support that. And then furthermore, he says, but it can be easily countered. So even further substantiation that just the Chidori can be easily countered or avoided. And this contradicts the claim of it being like an insane high-level speed amp, because if it made you so freaking fast, the person wouldn't be able to counter your attack or be able to avoid it because you would just straight up speed blitz them, right? It'd be similar to when Rock Lee's using the first gate or all 5 gates, So again, we're just already having further substantiation and consistency with how the Chidori operates. And so he says in the end, so that means it's essential to use your Sharingan, aka the precognition, to judge and see through your opponent's counterattack. And then we just see further statements where we see even like Naruto and Sasuke fighting in the Fountain of Violet, where they're equal to each other. Naruto literally has enough time to build chakra to make the Rasengan, spin in a circle with a shadow clone, and be able to match and force an equal stalemate exchange with Sasuke, who's bloodlusted and trying to kill him with a full power Chidori. And Sasuke even claims he's like, oh, I was at full power when he countered my Chidori and his jutsu. And he just flat out says, I can't risk wasting another one, especially if it draws out in the stalemate. My best bet is creating an opening with quick moves and jutsu in rapid succession, then move in with the Chidori and hit him square full on. This just further substantiates and supports the other claim that was made previously, that again, Sasuke's clutch isn't really the Chidori, it's mainly like the curse mark or just the Sharingan that he has himself due to his genetics of being an Uchiha. And we even see further, like, Naruto gets defeated by Kyuubi Naruto, and again, like, the Chidori couldn't save the day, like, that wasn't able to do anything, nothing worked, except, what do you know, when Sasuke gets the 3 Tomo, to where he has a high level of precog and aim dodging, now he's able to beat the brakes of Kyuubi Naruto, because he not only did he already have the speed to Kyuubi Naruto and was relative to him, because he was even reacting, responding to his attacks when he had 2 Tomo, okay, his precognition is so high, he literally says, whoa, before I couldn't keep up with him, but now, and he's confused. He doesn't even know if it's a curse mark or if it's like his new eye. Okay, and he says, I can tell what he's going to do next just by looking at him with my mind's eye. And we just see like further feats of him like seeing all his moves, and it's like if he's in slow motion. And he says, with eyes like this, I can have conserved my chakra, given how the curse mark drains me every bit. And he says, with chakra sight like this, all I need to do is read his next move and set up my strike before it happens, aka aim dodging. Then he's able to defeat Kyuubi Naruto because, again, the 3 Tomo Sharingan. Not because of Chidori or anything else, because of his Sharingan. So again, not only there has been consistency that the Sharingan is the reason why Sasuke is actually very successful throughout his fights, or actually remotely has any chance to survive, okay, and most importantly, not only have we shown like statements of consistency and feats to show that Chidori isn't a massive speed amp either, this should basically go to show you the misconception that is used so much with Sasuke. Like, there's so many scaling videos of Sasuke where people say with the Chidori where he's like, 5th gate level, or he has like insane levels speed now and speed blitz tiers above. Like, again, it's just blatantly not correct. Still not convinced. Just to show you like further evidence and just consistency, like we even see Naruto like when he's using the Rasengan, when he first acquires the Rasengan, to where literally Kabuto says, I don't know what kind of jutsu you've learned, but you'll never hit me with big motions like that. And then when Naruto was like, he basically had to sustain damage and then grab like Kabuto's arm and then be able to like land the Rasengan, but Kabuto was still able to counterattack and hit him in the process. And he literally says, Naruto is finished. I cut off his heart's chakra, the network that heals himself with the power of the Nine Tails. So like again, like he was able to tag him while Naruto hit him with the Rasengan. And this is just further consistency showing that beeline attacks are easy to counter or avoid. And you could easily be able to deal with the Rasengan as Chidori if you scale to the person and to the opponent. And we even see with like Saikon where he's able to like see like he's like, oh, that's chakra in his hand. And then Naruto goes to use the Rasengan on Saikon. And then Saikon just straight up grabs it and he says, it's pointless if I can get your hand first, So again, there's just tons of consistency to show that a beeline attack is very easy to counter or avoid. Which is why the Sharingan, the 2 Tomo, is so crucial when utilizing the technique Chidori. And lastly, not only that, like we just get further feats to like where Sasuke, like while in base and using his max speed, he was trying to like hit Gaara and basically hit him before he went into the Sand Dome, and he failed to do so, and he literally gets cut all over his body, and literally his hand was also like messed up and bruised and all bloody, his knuckles and whatnot, because he couldn't punch and the sand is like very durable. And so what does he do? He turns on his Sharingan, the 2 Tomo. Now he has precognition, activates his Chidori. Now he has a lightning ninjutsu AP freaking sword that can literally cut through anything. So not only it can go through the sand, but then he has the precognition to see the sand's attacks to where he's not getting cut up or pierced through, and he's able to basically land his attack successfully while he dodges all of Gaara's attack. And even Guy comments on this as well, and he literally is confused at first when he was seeing Sasuke only using taijutsu and beating Gaara up. And he's like, Kakashi, like I know he saw the match between Lee and Gaara, he has to know that taijutsu won't work against Gaara, so why did he have Sasuke hone his taijutsu? that Sasuke is using the Chidori, then he says, I see, so that's why you had him focus on taijutsu and increased his speed so much. So again, like, there's just tons and tons of consistency with statements, with feats, and so on and so forth, that, you know, that is how the Chidori operates. It's not a massive speed amp or anything. It's either a small speed amp or no amp at all, so on and so forth. And we even see like tons of consistency in other ways where it's even shown and explained in Boruto, shown with Naruto using the Rising On as well, etc, etc. Next thing I wanted to get into as well, guys, the next misconception, that this is like one of another common one that's really utilized a lot for some reason with Sasuke. People always try to use the data book to where like where Gaara is, where it states in the data book where Gaara faces his strongest opponent. And so basically the interpretation that they'll get from that is like, oh, meaning therefore that means, you know, Sasuke has to be above 5th Gate Lee, and, you know, he's stronger than Lee, blah blah, the whole nine, etc. And that is just blatantly incorrect. Not only is it contradicted by tons of feats and statements, which we'll eventually go over, the consistency of that as well, and all the feats that happen in the retrieval arc, but most importantly, the biggest debunking contradiction to that claim, and what the correct interpretation is, and what that data book is more than likely referencing and referring to, is Gaara's subjective and, you know, personal view and perception of what he deems true power and strength. And so I'm gonna have all these scans on the screen. So if you want to pause them, and mind you, this is for any talking points I have in the videos, guys. But if you ever want to just pause the video, read the scans, and go over it, and then you'll be able to understand everything I'm saying, by all means. So I'm not going to read each scan for you guys. You could be able to review it yourself. I'm just going to review the scans that are the most relevant, and just to keep this very short and concise, because I did go over this very briefly in the Rock Lee video, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to try to keep this as simple as possible. So basically what we see is, you know, with the scan is, Gaara says, because you're naive and your hatred is not strong enough. The strength of one's hatred is the strength of one's kill, and the strength of one's to kill is the strength of vengeance. Your hatred will never match mine. And Sasuke's like, shut up. And then he's like, do you understand? Even calls Sasuke weak, and because his hatred is not as strong as his. And he even tells Naruto, where he's like, whether you fight for yourself or for others, you should only love yourself and fight only for yourself. That is the definition of the strongest one. Now fight me and show me your power, just like when you took down Neji Hyuga. You know, I'll grind that power into nothingness. And he's referring to the Kyuubi's power, and he's also where the Naruto has a monster in him, because they both had a full conversation that they both had monsters, etc., and realized how similar they were to each other. But Gaara just, you know, was alone while Naruto wasn't, and Gaara chose the path of darkness, while, you know, obviously Naruto chose the path of friends, love, and, you know, and the light, right? So not only does Gaara like concede and say how he deems true power and strength or whatever, along with all the other scans that were on screen, which talks about Sasuke and how similar he is to Gaara, whatever, etc., the whole nine. That is the reason why Gaara considers Sasuke his strongest opponent, because of the darkness and hatred and the pain that Sasuke has been through, and how similar Sasuke is to Gaara in those aspects. And so whenever he fought someone like Lee or Naruto or anyone that's even similar in the notion of, like, you know, where their whole thing is to, you know, to fight to protect the people they love, or the power of love, okay, not the power of hatred or darkness, or just to fight for yourself, okay, he doesn't respect that or acknowledge that, and just will automatically just classify you as weak or think you're nothing or whatever, so on and so forth. And unless you're like doing something really crazy to like objectively prove that no, you are strong or better or besting him, then he'll finally acknowledge, but okay, you know, like, this guy is really powerful, like he did when Lee was using the gates against him, and he was like, is he even human? Like, his movements are inhuman, things like that. But for the most part, that's Gaara's perception of true power. And it's just further explained in the end of the arc, where Gaara has his famous battle against Naruto, to when he loses to Naruto, he's very confused of why Naruto was able to beat him, and he then remembers that the feeling that makes you want to strive for and protect those around you and who are precious to you, love. And then Gaara says, so that's why he's so strong, the power of love, wanting to protect others. Okay, so again, like, that's just it's to keep it very simple and straightforward. That's why Gaara even deems Sasuke to be the strongest opponent, you know. So meaning, therefore, it's not like, oh, Sasuke actually is, you know, or he's like 5th Gate Lee level and blah blah, all this crazy stuff, whatever, you know, conclusion you want to go to. It's literally because of Gaara's subjective view and how he perceives power. Misconception we're going to be getting into is the fact that people think Sasuke is 5th Gate Lee level, or basically like scales exactly the same, you know, and so on and so forth. And this is not only just insanely and objectively contradicted by feats blatantly, You know, there's like just an insane level of difference of what they're able to perform in the tuning exams in comparison when it comes to physical stats and taijutsu. But even furthermore, there's like tons and tons of statements to debunk this and contradict, and not only that, in the retrieval arc especially, it's just blatantly contradicted by feats as well, and so on and so forth. So that's basically what we're going to be covering and going over in this part of the video. So, you know, the first things first, Guy who literally knows Lee's full potential and is analyzing Sasuke, utilizing his max speed, he literally says that's practically the same speed as Lee without his weights. He doesn't say that's Lee, you know, the same speed as Lee with the first gate or with all the gates or anything like that. Or he doesn't say like, oh, he's exactly the same level of speed as Lee. He doesn't say that. He says literally without the weights. And this is really important because all this basically means with this statement is that he's approaching the level of weightless Lee and he's getting there, but he's not even necessarily there either. And that's very, very important because we actually eventually get a full gauge in some realm of comprehension of exactly how far he is away from weightless Lee. And we actually eventually see that in the retrieval arc, and we'll eventually go over all those feats and evidence too. But again, just to keep it very straightforward and simple, we actually do get to know where Sasuke's speed is. Evidence, like there's even narrative consistency when we were first presented with Guy even getting in the picture, to where Guy says he's stronger than Kakashi, and Sasuke's sweating and freaking out and saying in his head that he's so fast his speed is much greater than Kakashi. Is he even human? And this becomes a consistent thing because when Lee was using the gates against Gaara, Gaara even questioned if Lee was even human, that his movements were inhuman, and so on and so forth. So like, this is just, again, very, very consistent. And Sasuke has a very similar line of logic even with Guy, and this is Guy in base without the gates. And Sasuke has seen Kakashi in a life and death battle as well against Zabuza, you know. So again, this is very, very impressive, you know, and Sasuke starts freaking out more. He's like, who is this guy? He claims he's better than Kakashi, and I don't think he's bluffing. And this is right after Lee beating the dog breaks of Sasuke, and this was weightily against Sasuke during the tuning exam. So again, like, there's already even narrative consistency of like showing Guy being over Kakashi, and then Sasuke being, you know, and then Lee being over Sasuke. We further get to analyze in the tuning exams, Guy literally flat out says that in terms of speed, Lee can't be surpassed. You know, like just flat out says in terms of speed, he just can't be surpassed. And never at any point within the final tuning exams when he's watching Sasuke that, you know, he says, oh, Sasuke surpassed Lee in speed, you know, and he's just beyond him, or Sasuke's beyond the you know, Lee with all the gates. And this makes sense because when we even get further information about the gates, as you guys have already seen on screen, like when the gates are explained, it's basically the gates, you know, release your limiters, which allows like the chakra to flow through like your chakra network. And there's 8 gates or whatever, and they constantly maintain limits in the amount of chakra flowing through the body, limits that the Lotus uses the chakra to forcefully override, enabling the user to draw upon strength that is dozens of times his usual level of power, even if the user's body is destroyed in the process. So again, like, the gates are no freaking joke, and we've seen feats and evidence even to substantiate that as well. We've seen the crazy level of devastation, like, you know, of power that Lee had when he activated all the gates against Gaara, and we've even seen that with the first gate alone, he becomes like a speed blitz tier above all the opponents he fights as well. So again, like, there's tons of consistency. Like performance and feats against Gaara, like with Lee just taking one single footstep, he destroys the entire stadium. You see the entire floor blow up and all the rocks go in the air. He's overwhelming everybody, all the Genings, even Kakashi is lifting like his hand up to his face, you know, to protect himself, whatnot. And Kakashi even had to use his 3 Tomo just to perceive and see what is going on as well. None of this is replicated in Sasuke's final tuning exam fight when he's going against Gaara. He's not overwhelming everyone with just like his raw physical stats. You know what I mean? Kakashi's not using 3 Tomo and nothing like that, whatever. Like, again, none of this is shown and emphasized to the same level and emphasis. And Gaara, like, you know, as we already know, like, even says, is he even human? My defenses are falling. You know, Guy even further comments on, like, when Rock Lee's using the gates, that the Reverse Lotus is a series of taijutsu perform with such speed that the attacker is untouchable, and these rapid moves are Lee's key to winning the match. There's no way the Sand can keep up, and so on and so forth. And this is really important because in order to utilize the Reverse Lotus, it only requires a 3rd gate, and that was also stated verbatim as well. So meaning just with the third gate alone, Lee is already like beyond an aroma of speed and power that is way beyond Chunin Exam Sasuke and Final Valley Sasuke as well. He's moving so fast and he's so powerful, nobody can see him. Nobody can see where he's at. They're like, oh, everyone's freaking out. Choji, Shikamaru, all of them. And they're all like, but what about Lee? Like, I don't see him anywhere. The other feats and scans that is presented on screen, like it literally shows like if Rock Lee is in like his own dimension, and you like when he's performing the hits, like you can't even see him, but we do at least get some emphasis that he is there, but he's just moving so fast that you can't see him. We even get further statements to where like Lee speaks to Neji directly, and he's like, Neji, you know, this technique is my ace in hole to take you down, which was referring to him using all the gates, or the third gate bare minimum. And Guy even says it's a high-speed continuous taijutsu that can't even be touched. You know, the answer to take Neji down is that high-speed combination. And again, this is really, really important because the Chidori, when Sasuke's using the Chidori, he can be touched. He can be countered or easily avoided and so on and so forth. While Rock Lee, he's so fast and so powerful, he can't even be touched or engaged with. That is how powerful Rock Lee is. So again, like, it's just complete blatant objective emphasis, not only with feats and consistency of statements. Sasuke is blatantly not 5th gate level, and that's just not incorrect. That is just not correct at all, and it's one of the biggest misconceptions that people like to have out there within the part 1 scaling. And with all the scans that are on the screen as well, guys, like when we're even analyzing Sasuke fighting against, you know, Gaara, and he's using this taijutsu, you could literally see him at all times. No one is saying, oh, I can't see Sasuke, you know, like, where is he or whatever. Again, he's not overwhelming everyone. He's not destroying the entire stadium, so on and so forth. And we even get, like, a narrative statement of, like, Naruto acknowledging Sasuke's power when he sees him. And he says, hey, I want to fight you as well. And this is important because in the preliminary, when Sasuke acknowledged Naruto and actually saw him as a threat, you know, potentially, and so on and so forth, he said that same line and statement to Naruto, saying, hey, I want to fight you, and so on and so forth, you know, acknowledging his power, whatever, which would bare minimum put them within a formidable level of power to where they're at least relative or equal to each other in scaling. You know, so again, like, with all the statements that we have, and even the feats that Sasuke performs against Gaara in the final Chunin exams, there's just a complete different level of power being demonstrated and presented. Not only by statements, but by feats blatantly. And even when he's using the Chidori. The only thing that Sasuke has over Lee was just way more AP in comparison. Like, Naruto's AP with the Rising On and Sasuke's AP with the Chidori blatantly surpasses 5th gate Lee, or just with any of the gates when it comes to his taijutsu, because Lee couldn't get through the sand walls. You know what I mean? He can get through the sand armor, but he couldn't get through the sand walls and so on and so forth. While Sasuke and Naruto with the Rising On and Chidori, their AP is so powerful, they could get through that and make Gaara bleed. So that is without a doubt. But when it comes to the speed discrepancy and how fast, blatantly Rock Lee takes the edge over that. And said even him in direct correlation to Neji, to where even Neji is above this particular Sasuke in the Chunin exams. And this is even further reinforced in the Final Valley as well, which we'll eventually go over that evidence. But at least for the Chunin exams, you know, when we first see Sasuke, he's chasing after Gaara and Temari, and Kankuro is even brave enough to try to combat and fight against him. Now, to be fair, this isn't Sasuke at full power. He is nerfed, but at the same time, this does go to show that he's not leagues above and beyond all these characters, like, you know, of how Lee and Neji would be in comparison. And it just goes to show that people could still be relative to this Sasuke, or still be a threat while they're at full power while he's not, and so on and so forth, you know. And we even get further like evidence and feats of even Naruto and Sasuke, Naruto and Sakura even being in a similar level of power when they're also confronting Shikaku Gaara as well. So again, like, there's tons of consistency in feats, you know, and establishments that Sasuke is in a very similar ballpark with all the other Genin, you know. But just again, I wanted to point that out there. And then most importantly, then we see all the feats with Sasuke where he's fighting like Shikaku Gaara with the one hand and then with the one tail state as well. You know, they have like their Chidori clash and the Shikaku clash and whatnot. Well, just to further like also convince you guys that like Sasuke is also not at full power, which you guys already know this. He has this fight against Gaara. But even like Kakashi's like, right now you only have enough chakra to make 2 Chidori. Chidori, it's a jutsu that can only be used jointly with the Sharingan in a battle situation. And using your Sharingan and another jutsu at the same time, it's like combusting and expending all of your body's chakra at once. So again, it is pretty taxing on Sasuke. So like, Just want to put that out there. But we even get like further consistency. Now, mind you, this Naruto is also nerfed and not at full power either. And he's also able to confront one tail, one arm Shikaku Gaara as well, and protect Sasuke from getting hit. Sakura is even able to get in front of the Shikaku Gaara to try to protect, Sasuke as well. So again, there's already just been establishment of relativity between these characters, and so on and so forth. And this is important because this, is just further consistency showing of why Rock Lee and Neji are way beyond Sasuke and Naruto, or even these characters, the ninja, when it comes to realm of power and speed. And then we see further feats to where basically Naruto fights Shikaku, and mind you, he's fighting Gaara in like his second strongest form, okay? And this is just icing on the cake, and this is before Naruto has his mental amp, and I even show the scans on screen, the difference of when he has the mental amp and when he doesn't have the mental amp. So all he does is summon a couple amount of shadow clones, gets a paper bomb, basically has several, exchanges with V2 Shikaku Gaara. He's able to land a successful blow on Gaara. And then once that happens, he then gets he finally gets the mental amp where he says you will get stronger, and Sasuke's like, whoa, he's summoning unbelievable amounts of chakra. Is this really Naruto? And then Naruto's like, I swear I'll protect all of you. And he gets like an enormous amount of blue chakra, and then it shows Haku, like, do you have anyone special in your life? And when people are protecting someone they truly is precious to them, they can become as strong as they must be. And Sasuke's like blown away, and things like that. So again, like, this is just further evidence to show that this is actually when Naruto gets the mental amp, and he summons like 2,000 freaking clones. It's like a crazy amount of shadow clones, and Sasuke's freaking his pants. He's like, is this really Naruto, and things like that. And we already know what happens. Like, Naruto beats up Shikaku and does a lot of damage to him, as you guys can see all the scans on screen. And then Gaara gets really pissed off. He goes to his full transformation, and he was actually pushed into a corner. Even Temari announces that and acknowledges that. And then Naruto, what does he do in response when he has no chakra left? He utilizes the Kyuubi chakra, and he summons the frog, Gambunsa. And Naruto and Sasuke is literally shivering in like, Naruto, like, what have you been up to? So again, like, mental amp Naruto is obviously clearly above Sasuke, but regardless, the whole point being said is there was a point when Naruto was confronting V2 Shikaku Gaara, and this was without the mental amp as well. And this is really important because when we analyze Neji against Naruto, Neji was, and this is when Naruto's at full power, remind you, Neji was way beyond Naruto. He was so fast, even with like all the shadow clones Naruto used against him, he was like a blitz tier speed above Naruto, and he was just, Naruto couldn't do anything to him. And Neji was like spamming gentle fist techniques, which involved chakra. He was using the rotation. He even does a 64 palm strike against Naruto and blitzes him over and over. Like, he's literally spamming chakra and his stamina over and over just to bully Naruto and basically toy around with him, to the point where he becomes fatigued. And then Naruto basically has no chakra, and he utilizes the Kyuubi chakra and basically gets a senso beam, recovers, it's basically back at its prime, and is now equal to a fatigued Neji. And Neji can still confront the Nine Tails Kyuubi chakra, and this is very impressive because literally the chakra that Naruto uses, he says is even greater than before when he trained, and the last time he trained is when he utilized the Nine Tails chakra to summon the big frog. So that means like he's using an insane amount of chakra to summon a Sonic level frog, and that's the amount of chakra he's having to utilize and incorporate into his body in order to be equal to Neji, who is fatigued, remind you. So if anything, this is just a testament to Neji's power and strength. It really goes to show how strong people are, like Neji and even Rock Lee and so on and so forth. So again, this is really, really impressive for Neji. It's not an anti-feat or anything, or it's not like there's always a misconception where people are like, oh, Kyuubi Naruto beat Neji, so therefore, Sasuke should be above, whatever, blah, yeah, the whole nine, yada, yada, right? That's not true. It was a fatigued Neji, first off, and then when we eventually analyzed the retrieval arc feats and so on and so forth, it's just completely debunked completely as well. So again, just wanted to put that out there. So, and this is even further reinforced even where like Sasuke even says, like, when I watch him up close, I can tell he's got some massive power inside of him. Sometimes I even feel afraid. Naruto keeps getting stronger almost abnormally compared to our Ninja Academy days when he was caught failure. It's virtually unbelievable progress. He's among Naruto, like, what in the world are you? How can I get stronger? And it's showing Naruto when he's in the Kyuubi eyes, and obviously it even shows like flashback moments when it's referring to when he had his mental amps as well. So again, like, Sasuke was never in the realm of Kyuubi Naruto's power, or in the realm of Neji's power, or even Rock Lee with the gates and so on and so forth, or weightless Rock Lee. Like, it's always been demonstrated consistently with statements and just feats and narrative emphasis. Okay, and then we get like further consistency with this, where even like where Kakashi even says, like, remind you that's our Sasuke, and after analyzing Neji beating Hinata, that even him, like, he wouldn't even be able to prevail and be able to defeat, you know, Neji, like our precious Sasuke would lose. And this is an interesting statement he makes, because this could even be into question whether or not that's even like him thinking of teaching Sasuke the Chidori, you know what I mean, and developing his speed and whatnot, or if it maybe that is only applying to that particular Sasuke. But regardless, there's still a narrative statement being made of even comparing Sasuke to Neji, and there's tons of consistency where Neji's always just stated to be the strongest getting as well compared to everybody, you know. And most importantly, even after the final tuning exams, in the data book even says Neji was still the strongest Genin, and so on and so forth, and you name it, you know. And this is being compared to like Naruto and Sasuke and things like that. Obviously, the exception of like 3rd Gate Lee and or 5th Gate Lee and above, you know, things like that. But again, like, there's all this consistency, and it even says, like, you know, Neji only lost to Naruto because he was caught off guard. So, like, again, with all these statements, with all the narrative, you know, information, the consistency, the feats, and so on and so forth, there's an abundance amount of evidence to clearly establish that Sasuke was not even above and beyond Neji in the final tuning exams. Level feats that we have, guys, just to show further substantiation of Neji and Rock Lee being above Sasuke, and this is even reinforced in the retrieval arc, where we even have further time skips where everyone is training and getting stronger and so on and so forth, to where literally Sasuke has several exchanges on the rooftop with basically Naruto, and they're basically equal for the most part throughout the fight. And then, you know, but Naruto is technically slightly superior because, mind you, Sasuke does have the 2-tome precog, yet Naruto is still equal to him. So this just blatantly goes to prove that Naruto is technically slightly faster and Sasuke is relative to him. But regardless, they were going to have their Rising on and Chidori clash, and Naruto would have accidentally killed Sasuke right there and then, but thankfully they didn't land the blows because Kakashi intervened and stopped the fight. And this is very important, because this blatantly just shows similar scaling to where they scale to each other and whatnot, and this is even further reinforced during the retrieval arc as well. And if you guys also don't believe with the Rising on a Chidori clash either, like, even Sasuke says, like, in the skin like Naruto, how far have you? And this is a very consistent thing within the narrative, because whenever Naruto does surpass Sasuke, Sasuke always has this emotional reaction and says that line. He says it when Naruto is in Caesium 2 and when he goes into Caesium 2 Sage Mode as well. So it's a very consistent thing. And even, you know, Kakashi says that Jiraiya, like, he could have killed Sasuke with the Rasengan. You know, and then also just to further show that the Rasengan is above the Chidori, like, Jiraiya flat out says that he knows a really cool jutsu that's so much more mightier than the Chidori, and we blatantly see it with the water tank in comparison and with Sasuke's reaction as well, and so on and so forth, along with what Kakashi said. So again, that's the first thing we see. And then as we further get into the retrieval arc, we even get further narrative information and statements and feats. Sasuke in the similar ballpark with Naruto's scaling, which would obviously have Neji and Rock Lee over, because when we see the statement with Shikamaru, he says we need a party formation that can instantly react to an insult, you know, and so on and so forth. And he's basically gauging all their abilities, their, you know, their stats, speed, whatever, so on and so forth, into a team formation. And he literally explains it in the next following scan, where he says, Choji, you're 4th up. You don't have speed, but you have the greatest striking power. Once Kiba and Naruto launch surprise attacks and, you know, what do things need to be the final blow, he says, Neji, you are the rear. You have the toughest job of all. With your Bakugan, you can ensure that our squad has no blind spots, and because he's literally the fastest of the group and the strongest of the group. And this is further reinforced because when Tayuya and Saikon and even the Spider-Man dude, they were like, what's taking the fat, you know, Jirobo so long? And they're like, they knew it was a mistake to leave our weakest behind. And basically, they're just getting at, you know, like, that they should have left the weakest. And mind you, Jirobo is the one that has, like, a full-on death battle with Choji. And this same Jirobo was the one that was fighting against Naruto and Kiba and beating them up as well. And that was in base, remind you. So again, like, this just blatantly goes to establish to where Sasuke is literally around Jirobo's level of power, or at least, you know, around, like, Tayuya and Saikon. But technically be Jirobo because, again, his skilling is exactly similar to Naruto. And this is really important, because as we get to the next scan, the Spider-Man dude, he acknowledges and says that Neji is the strongest of the group. And that's after him fighting the entire group, remind you, And Kiba even says, hey, this guy is way tougher than the big guy before, a lot tougher, mind you. And mind you, he's talking about Jirobo. So he's basically saying the Spider-Man guy is way more stronger than Jirobo. So this blatantly, again, just goes to show how much more superior Neji and Rock Lee is in comparison to Naruto and Sasuke and the others when we're talking about them all around overall and scaling and stats and speed and so on and so forth. Further substantiated because as we're further analyzing everything, like when Spider-Man fights the entire squad, like Shikamaru literally says flat out, like me, Naruto, Kiba, and Neji with all this planning, even with planning, like it still wasn't enough, whatever, and Neji was the only one that was able to actually go toe-to-toe with him and also deal with the spider web as well. And there's even feats that I show on the screen to where literally Neji can like actually respond and react to all of the spider webs that the Spider-Man dude sends. Guy, even he admits that, you know, because of the gentle fist, the close combat is a no-no, and my only option is to hit his blind spot from far away and to attack from a range. So again, like, this guy even concedes that close combat is a no-no and that he's just way faster than him and he just can't risk it. And this is blatantly shown and demonstrated by feats because Neji was literally able to speed blitz once he got into close contact and destroyed him, but he only survived due to jutsu activation. Kind of very similar to when Sasuke uses the Susanoo against the Raikage because of the speed discrepancy. Same exact scenario. Starts doing range attacks while in base. He still couldn't land any attacks, and Neji could, you know, see where he's at and try to attack him, whatever. And he's very surprised. He goes into CM1, and still he has to fight from a range and utilize a strategy to attack him from a range because close combat is a no-no because how fast and how far Neji scales. He still can't land any attacks on Neji while he's shooting so many attacks, you know, from a range and all over his blind spots, spiders, you know, shuriken, metal shuriken things and so on and so forth. And then even when he's in CM2, he still has to attack from a distance. And Neji was able to get eventually close enough in distance and was able to speed blitz and subdue him while he's even in his CM2 form. And this is very impressive because we do know the CM1 and CM2 is an amp as well and amplifies your physical stats and so on and so forth and makes your chakra 10 times greater. So meaning, in theory, you'd be 10 times stronger, yet Neji could still be able to defeat him in close combat. Most importantly, the chair on the top, the Spider-Man dude, after he's defeated, he says he's the first to drive me this far ever since Kimimaro, aka the Bone Man. And that's a very, very big deal because this becomes a consistent thing to where Neji and Rock Lee were the only ones that are actually in the realm of that power level, aka Kimimaro, Bone Man. Further consistency in feats where even like Saikon, like he's able to beat up Kiba, Naruto, and Shikamaru all at once with taijutsu and things like that, you know, so on and so forth. So like again, there's tons and tons of consistency. We further get into this even more, then we're introduced with Kimimaro, and his scaling is actually very, very important because it connects to all the Konoha 12 and establishes where they're all at in comparison. So he basically is introduced, and he moves so fast that he literally could have killed Naruto and Shikamaru right there and then, but he didn't want to do that. Instead, just left Taiyo to do it for him. And he's basically able to be so fast and speed blitz tier above that he literally is able to steal the barrel and literally get away, and Naruto and Shikamaru couldn't do anything about it. And then Naruto tries to stop him, but Taiyo just punches him in the face, and this is just further substantiation and consistency that literally, again, like the Sound 4 members all have relativity or similar scaling to the Konoha 12 members, but the only people that are an exception and are way above the Sound 4 and are actually in Bone Man and Kimimara's territory is people like Rock Lee and Neji. Okay, so this is really, really impressive, and you know, just again, it's further consistency, and it's even further like established where Kimimaro just tells Taiyo flat out that I won't kill you so you can live to fulfill your mission. So it's just blatantly said, and she's over here sweating and like freaking out and scared of him and whatnot. So like that right there, it is flat out just stated verbatim. And then not on top of it, Naruto not in base, but has to go to his Kyuubi form, his next level form, to get stronger and amp himself. Has a full serious conversation with Kimimaro, basically finding out that Sasuke's going to die by becoming a Orochimaru sacrifice. And obviously so, he doesn't want to accept that and won't let that happen. So he does a mental amp, does a crazy amount of Nine Tails chakra, summons thousands and thousands of clones. Kimimaro is really not phased, and he just basically says, interesting. Naruto summons a QB cloak on top of it, so he's getting like 3 amps. He's doing the QB amp, a mental amp, and a QB cloak, remind you, yet he still gets defeated by Kimimaro and can't land a single blow. Okay, and Kimimaro just like defeats all of them with his bone jutsu activation, and he's only fighting in base, remind you. And Naruto just flat out says like, man, this guy is strong, one blow against all those shadow doppelgangers. And mind you, this is never emphasized or on the same emphasis of when he's fighting Sasuke. He never makes the same statement about Sasuke. He doesn't even struggle to this degree against Sasuke either. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, he literally bullies Tsutomu Sasuke. Sasuke was relative still, but he still bullies him. And it tomo for Sasuke to get 3 Tomo in order to have any chance remotely to actually get the edge and defeat Kyuubi Naruto. You know, so again, like, this is a testament to just how really powerful Kimimaro is. Like, we even see in the anime that, like, Kimimaro, like, fights the Sound 4, basically, and this is, like, for leadership and whatnot, and he literally just flat out tells them, like, obey or die. And they basically try to fight him, and he literally just defeats all of them. Like, he just flat out just no diffs them. Like, it's not even a competition. So it's always been narratively shown that Kimimaro was above. It was shown when he was sick and when he was at his prime. So I just also wanted to kind of put that out there and just go to show. And mind you, they were also using their curse marks and as well. So again, there's that to put into consideration. Or analyze things, guys. Like, then we even see, like, with Lee, with the feats that he has, to where basically, you know, he intervenes and saves base Naruto from getting killed from Kimimaro. Because Kimimaro is basically, like, he's a blitz tier above base Naruto. So literally, he's about to kill Naruto, and then Rock Lee, mind you, in base, in his weightless form, is able to kick Kimimaro away. And even Kimimaro's like, who is this? And then he even just flat out acknowledges Rock Lee's strength, and he's like, he's not as easy as the others. And in the anime, it's actually a mistranslation, because in the anime, they actually correct the translations. Always want to make sure it's like reflects the manga material. And it was actually adjusted accordingly and corrected. And if you guys didn't know, just like a quick side note, like on the official Naruto website, like it's explained on how everything works. They hire 3 roles for translation, so on and so forth, and they review the anime and make sure it reflects as exactly as close as possible to the manga. So meaning, if it is different than the manga, that means the manga translation was actually incorrect then. So just want to kind of put that out there. But anyways, eventually I'll make a video on how translations work in Naruto and so on and so forth, but just kind of want to put that out there. But either way, in the anime only, he literally says, he's stronger than the others. And this is very important, because this would have Rock Lee and Neji obviously above and beyond Kyuubi Naruto and so on and so forth, and obviously Sasuke, etc., whatever you name it. So again, like, this is a big deal. You know, where they both run at each other, they're both equal, they're having like several exchanges, they both can't land any attacks, and then when Lee basically drinks like the potion, which is basically makes him drunk, even Kimimaro acknowledges and says like a private potion, it's made the boy loopy, you know, and he's basically just all like weird. Lee just starts beating him up with like his physical stats, and he says, I can't read his moves, he hit me, that taijutsu is something else. And then he literally says, I'm left with no choice, and has to start using the curse mark in order to be able to defeat Rock Lee, and then uses his jutsu activation, aka very similar to what Sasuke does to the Raikage when he's using the Susanoo. And he's basically now fast enough to actually deal with Rock Lee with, you know, with his weightless physical stats and with his unpredictability with the drunken fist fighting style. And as things further progress, you know, we finally see him landing blows on Drunken Lee. Then Lee literally flat out says, right now my job is to hold him as long as I can, so I should avoid using big moves enough to well kill him. So I just got out of surgery, so I can't go too crazy, but I can at least open one of the inner gates. So he does the first gate, and he's moving at a crazy speed. And mind you, Kimimaro is actually impressed. He says impressive speed, but it stops here. And he never says that about Kyuubi Naruto or anyone that he's come across. He says that about Lee with the first gate alone. And Lee with the first gate was able to replicate what he was able to do with the Drunken Fist, forcing Kimimaro to use the curse mark and use jutsu activation to stop his speed and AP. And again, this is very impressive, because this clearly goes to show Rock Lee and Neji are clearly superior to Sasuke and Naruto and above them in scaling. More impressive, as you guys already heard before, this is Rock Lee not even at his full potential and not at full power. He is literally like nerfed. He just came out of surgery, you know, and this is explained further when like Tsunade tells Guy that his surgery was a success, and if he's limited to jutsu training, he can start as early as tomorrow, but it wouldn't hurt to take it easy for a while. So again, like that's also very, you know, important to put into consideration. And even like, you know, Gaara just like flat out while watching him fight against Kimimaro, he says, when we last fought, you were faster and sharper than this. So again, this is not even like prime Rock Lee. This is literally a nerfed version of Rock Lee with his weightless form. And he was this much more superior to Sasuke Naruto and Kyuubi Naruto. In this, we actually finally get a full gauge of how far Sasuke actually was when Guy eventually made the statement way back then in the final tuning exams that, you know, it's practically the same speed as Lee without his weights. So again, like, there's a pretty big discrepancy between Rock Lee and Neji and, you know, Sasuke, Naruto, and all the others. I shared all this all together, guys, you know, for the chain scaling that we've been representing. You know, like even Sasuke, when he fought the Sound 4, like he was literally getting beat up by all of them. Like he got speed blitzed by the Spider-Man's web due to activation, you know, and so on and so forth. While, mind you, Neji could literally respond and react to that, you know, while Naruto and all the others couldn't, and even Sasuke couldn't. So again, just further feats and consistency of showing where Sasuke's scaling is, even in the Final Valley or during the tuning exams, so on and so forth. And then we see several exchanges between him and Naruto with the Rising on the Chidori class, you know, with them just having taijutsu blows moving at the same speed. We even see, you know, like, you know, Curse Mark Sasuke, you know, against base Naruto. And mind you, this Naruto is having like a mental nerf, and Naruto can still be able to perceive Curse Mark Sasuke, still be able to fight against him, so on and so forth, dodge his fire style. And this is really, really impressive because the whole point of Sasuke going to the Curse Mark is he wanted to utilize, you know, several jutsu combos and basically get in up and close and then try to land a Chidori on him, you know. And this is really, really impressive because, again, as I said before, with the feats that we see on screen, like Naruto was still able to perceive Curse Mark Sasuke the entire time, okay, while with the amp that Sasuke gets. You know, now to be fair, it is very interesting when it comes to the Curse Mark, and we're going to be also discussing the Curse Mark in a bit and how that actually operates and works with Sasuke and so on and so forth, because we do know that when Sasuke is using the Curse Mark, it technically drains his chakra and stamina, so it's kind of like a double-edged sword where it does make him stronger, but it also drains his power very quickly. So it's like he basically gains power for like a very short amount of time, but then he gets very weak throughout, you know, so there's that as well. Naruto's able to respond to everything. And then when he's eventually, like, you know, when Sasuke grabs him and he's about to land a Chidori point blank range, remind you, and he's in his Curse Mark CM1, Naruto in his Kyuubi form is still able to respond and block the attack last minute, which is very, very impressive. Feats as we see is like when Naruto's in his Kyuubi form, like Sasuke is still relative to Kyuubi Naruto, but Naruto is more superior than him, you know, but you know, like and Naruto does win the fight in the end, but he's at least still relative. But you get to see all the feats, you know, like and everything that basically occurs with Naruto and Sasuke. You know, like when the fight continues, like through Tomo Sasuke, you know, he was able to like defeat Kyuubi Naruto because, again, he already retained the speed before and was relative to that Kyuubi Naruto, and so on and so forth. You know, he defeats him. Then we see like One Tail Naruto, and even with all those feats, like this Sasuke is still relative to One Tail Naruto, regardless of the transformation and the amp that Naruto receives. He can still dodge and avoid his attacks. The only thing that Sasuke couldn't do was deal with the chakra branching, and he even explains it himself and flat out says, like, I could read Naruto's moves, but his chakra acted alone. It's as if his chakra has a mind of its own. Even with these eyes, I can't see what it'll do. So again, now he's back to square one when he had the two Tomo, where he couldn't really, you know, where he couldn't read Naruto's movements, and, you know, and was getting basically overwhelmed and beaten because he was only relative to Naruto, right? So he's basically back to square one. And even in, like, when he's in his Curse Mark again in CM1 with 3 Tomo, he still says, like, the most I can do is dodge. So again, there's blatant relativity throughout the entirety of the Final Valley fight, regardless of whether if they're going into their amp transformations, you know, whether if it's the Curse Mark or Kyuubi or One Tail. And then as we further get along, Sasuke then eventually goes into his CM2 form, and he's able to, you know, deal with One Tail Naruto's, like, attack, and he pushes him away or whatever, and then they're basically shown to be equal. So he's not relative anymore, he's now equal. So again, like, with all these transformations or whatever, we basically get a line of consistency that Sasuke, okay, and Naruto, even with their amps and so on and so forth, there's still a relativity between the transformations, and then even when they're in their final strongest forms, they're now finally equal to each other, right? And mind you, to be fair, this is Naruto holding back as well. So there is that into consideration. But regardless, that's basically what you're working with the scaling. And then when Sasuke goes into the Curse Mark, this is also very important to understand and know as well. but like it's eating away at him right away, and just starts draining his power. And he literally says right when he uses it, I have no time to drag this out. And he literally only has time to do 2 attacks, to block Naruto's attack and push him away, and then do the Chidori clash, and then technically another like taijutsu blow to knock Naruto out. So like he only has time for like 3 attacks. That's a very big deal, because Neji, he has all the time in the world with his base stats and so on and so forth, and the scaling he already has, and Rock Lee can be in the gates way longer than what Sasuke is presented to be able to do on screen in the manga, or even in the anime, and capable of doing when it comes to the statements and the feats and so on and so forth, to where they're blatantly above and beyond QB Naruto and, you know, curse mark Sasuke and so on and so forth, based upon their feats in correlation to Kimimaro, and based upon, you know, the statements around and surrounding them as well. And so, you know, this eventually does beg the question, and does it like logically follow through and make sense? Like, how much stronger does Sasuke actually get with the curse mark, when if it comes to CM1 or if it comes to CM2? And we actually do have a way to analyze this and actually figure out how much further stronger Sasuke actually is with that. And there's plenty of ways to analyze it. So the first time we actually ever see Sasuke utilize the power was when he was in the Forest of Death. And the reason why this is important is because, you know, he says, I feel fine, I feel strong, bursting with power. So it clearly is an amp, and that's just blatantly obvious. Like, for anyone to try to argue that the curse mark CM1 and CM2 is not an amp, like, you're just being very dishonest at that point. But it does question, like, how much of an amp is it though, right? And so when we first see, like, you know, Dozu's, like, his chakra is immense, too large for his body to even contain. And we do know it's consistently shown and portrayed in Naruto that the larger amount of chakra you have, the more stronger you will get. Now, again, I do understand that chakra control is very vital though, and regardless of how much chakra you have, if your chakra control is not good, then it's not going to make any difference. But we'll eventually get into that as well. But regardless, this is still, you know, a pretty good thing for Sasuke. And when we further analyze Sasuke, you know, he's able to basically, you know, basically blitz Zaku for a moment after Zaku tried to attack him with his strongest attack. You know, and it's even stated that he's fast and he's strong enough to lift both Naruto and Sakura at once. He then does a fire technique at Zaku, and basically Zaku, you know, he basically responds to it, and he's like, you're getting overconfident, I could just blow them away, and so on and so forth. So even with the CM1 curse mark amp, like, Zaku is still relative to the Sasuke, but Sasuke is superior. As long as he creates diversions or he has something to distract Zaku, then he's able to basically blitz him and deal with him, you know. So again, this Zaku is still relative, but this Sasuke is, you know, superior. And we do know that this particular Sasuke during this time, he was inferior to Weighted Lee, and Weighted Lee was actually a threat to these people, to Dozu, Zaku, and so on and so forth. So basically, when Sasuke gets the curse mark, he basically goes from like being below Weighted Lee to now being at Weighted Lee level. So that's kind of like a way to gauge the quantification realm of how much further stronger he gets when he's utilizing the curse mark. You know, and that's basically what you're working with for the most part. And we know what happens. Like, Sasuke eventually breaks Zaku's arms and deals with them, you know, after creating the diversion. And even Sasuke was very impressed with the power that he got, to where, you know, Lee is like, oh, it seems natural that a Uchiha member, you know, was able to beat them with incredible power. And Sasuke's like, what? Like, Lee was beaten senseless? Like, I don't get it. Were they really that strong? You know, so again, like, you know, that's basically what you're working with when it comes to Sasuke using the curse mark. You know, and then and the only other showing to really get with the curse mark is when he goes to basically use it against Naruto, you know, when he's fighting base Naruto, when he's fighting QB Naruto, whatever. And throughout the entirety of that fight, there's always relativity. So it basically begs the question, like, is it really like a massive amp? Does it really make him very strong? Because we do know that, like, the very famous statements that everybody basically knows, it's common knowledge at this point, of basically, you know, when you use the curse mark, at least the CM2 form, you get 10 times more chakra, you know, or you're 10 times more stronger with the durable statement, you know. But then it's like, is that really the case? You know, and honestly, yes and no. And what I mean by that is, you do get 10 times more chakra, or technically 10 times stronger, but for Sasuke, he wouldn't, because his chakra control is actually not good. And this is actually consistently demonstrated throughout the entirety of Naruto. So when we actually analyze Sasuke with his chakra control, and before we even get into that as well, Like, there is also a statement that's made by Psychom to where he says when you awaken your new state, the CM2 form, you will probably gain a power equal to ours or below. And that's also consistently shown to where all the sound form members, whenever they're doing CM1 or CM2, like the people that they're fighting against, they're still relative to them, right? They're just slightly superior, you know? So again, you know, there's also that level of consistency based upon the feats in the statement that I just presented. And most importantly, okay, when we analyze Sasuke and whatnot, when it comes to his chakra control, that is like the biggest thing with all of this at the end of the day. Sasuke with chakra control, we do get to see certain glimpses of what he's capable of when it comes to him using chakra control. So like when he first starts off, like in the beginning of the Line of Waves, like he can't even fight, you know, a water clone of Zabuza, right? And we went over this in previously in this video, but just as important just to recap. So like he couldn't do that, but then when he does a tree climbing and does a chakra control, he basically can be able to, you know, keep up with Haku and speed, and so on and so forth. He's able to defeat multiple Zabuza water clones. So you clearly do get stronger when you have chakra control, right? You know, and then not only that, like, you know, Sasuke even's like, I gotta remember the training, like, because he's over here like equal to Haku, but then he starts using his chakra control, and he's able to dodge one of Haku's like ice style ninjutsu attacks, which is really fast. And he actually starts like outspeeding her to where he literally perception blitzes her for one moment to where she's like, where he is like, I'm sorry for saying she, where he's like, where did he go? And basically he starts fighting Haku, and then Haku's like, he's fast. And then even Zabuza's like, wow, Haku's actually losing a battle of speed, you know, and Sasuke's like, you're fast, but I'm faster, you know. So again, like, you know, that's the level of chakra control we do get to see with Sasuke. So he does have some level of progress with chakra control, but it's not perfect. He doesn't have mastery, and it's not even above even the likes of Sakura. And yes, I'm saying Sakura has better chakra control. It's not only stated several times throughout Part 1 Naruto, but it's just blatantly demonstrated by feats as well. And just to further establish the concept of chakra control for anyone out there that's very confused on that, or doesn't really know how that works, and so on and so forth, or doesn't even believe that it does make you stronger, even though like the feats and statements we already went over blatantly proves that. But when Kakashi is basically talking about chakra control, he literally says Sakura is probably the one closest to overtaking our leader Lord Hokage. And why? Because she has incredible chakra control. When you have good chakra control, the sky is the limit when it comes to your techniques, jutsu, your physical stats, you name it. You're basically as powerful as you can possibly be based upon the amount of chakra and stamina that you also possess as well. You know, and that's why he says Sakura is the closest to reaching, you know, the Hokage. But Kakashi also says in the bottom of the scan, on the other hand, with them, Naruto and Sasuke both harbor such massive untapped reserves of chakra that Sakura is nothing in comparison by. And if this lesson goes as planned, by the end we should be able to tap those vast resources, and basically, in theory, in conclusion, Sasuke and Naruto would be way more powerful than Sakura, because if they can get the same level of chakra control that Sakura has, then they'll be way more powerful, right? And this makes sense. We consistently see this with Naruto. Like, Naruto has the most chakra out of everybody, but yet he's still weaker than Kakashi, all the Jonings, and weaker than Chunings and whatnot, and so on and so forth, right? You know, because again, he doesn't have mastery of chakra control, and he's not very good as far as Sakura is, you know? And it's further explained with chakra control as it is as well, you know, but Kakashi flat out tells them all, like, none of you yet have full mastery of your chakra. You know, and then when he's describing, you know, as Sakura said, you know, manipulating the chakra, it refers to the physical mental energies combining within your body. And no matter how great the amount of chakra you summon and manipulate, if you can't maintain your balance, whatever the technique, not only would the effectiveness of your maneuver be cut in half, but you could also blunder so badly the spell may not be released at all. And this would be for martial arts, this would be for jutsu, and so on and so forth. So again, it doesn't even matter how much chakra you could have, like, you know, alien level of chakra, like Momoshiki level of chakra, yet it's still not going to matter if your chakra control is crap. You're not going to be able to make full use of it, and you're only going to be able to go so far, right? You know, so again, this is very, very important to put into consideration. You know, and then Sakura even questions Kakashi, and it's like, oh, but Kakashi, like, how will learning to climb trees this way make us stronger, whatever, and so on and so forth. And he, like, explains further. He's like, you know, greater mastery of the chakras, you know, no use no more than necessary, but to maximize its effectiveness and to where and how it's applied. The subject control is the most critical aspect of every jutsu and technique you'll ever apply. And furthermore, like just to prove that Sakura was the best of chakra control out of the two throughout the entirety of part 1 in the series, to where Kakashi Fadata says like Sakura, he's basically says, now we know which one of you three has the best chakra control over all of them, and it's our young lady Sakura, and that's why he says she's the closest to becoming the Hokage. And then most importantly, and then like towards the end of it, like Kakashi even says this flat out, if he only knew that Naruto's abilities dwarf even those of Sasuke, and perhaps mine as well, that would be a marvel and a pleasure. And basically what he's saying is if Naruto can get mastery of his chakra, he would literally be the strongest, because he's way beyond even Kakashi and Sasuke when it comes to chakra reserves and stamina. And we even see like Sakura with the bridge builder, where where he's asking like where are the guys, and she's basically she says training, and she's like, I surpassed them in power, and so on and so forth. So there was even a point where Sakura was more stronger than Sasuke and Naruto because of her chakra control training. Enforced with the statement with Kabuto, where Kabuto says Naruto's chakra is so immense, creating all those doppelgangers and then carefully transforming just 3 clones into counterfeits, and so on and so forth. Yet he still has the stamina to be on his feet, moving even though it's the morning of the 5th day. He's still a boy. If he really gains mastery over that massive chakra, he could become a monster. So again, like there's so much substantiation of like how chakra control works and how it can make you really, really strong and so on and so forth. And it doesn't matter if you have a crazy amount of chakra, if you don't have good chakra control, you can't make full use of it. And basically it's not going to matter, And we see further consistency to where when Sakura is using chakra control in her fight against Ino, she says, I'll focus all of my chakra within my feet. And Ino's like, she's so fast. And she basically speed blitzes Ino for a moment as well. So again, like this just goes to show you how important chakra control is. And Kakashi explains further in the preliminary exams analyzing Sakura and Ino's fight, where he says the technical art of circulating chakra of every nook and cranny of the body and deploying it with precise timing is an area in which Sakura has surpassed even Sasuke. From the beginning, her mastery of chakra manipulation has been superb, and she's just always been built like that, right? So again, like from like the Lena Waves, even all the way through the big time skip to like the Force of Death, the Shooting Sense, whatever you name it, Sakura was always above Naruto and Sasuke. And this was something Sasuke never fully mastered or was like really essentially well at, at least during part 1 of Naruto. Is the simple fact that because Sasuke doesn't have mastery of his chakra control and is nowhere near as good as even someone who likes of Sakura, okay, even with the curse mark amp or even with the CM2 amp, because of his chakra control, he can't even make full use of that power, meaning therefore that's why his scaling really just doesn't change, and that's why even the feats even logically follow and make sense of why there's constant relativity between all the transformations or the base forms or whatever, and so on and so forth, because again, Sasuke's chakra control is just not effective. Meaning, therefore, if Sakura had like the CM1 or CM2, transformation that Sasuke had, she would actually be way more powerful than Sasuke because of her chakra control, So again, like as crazy as that sounds, like Sakura, if she had Sasuke's CM1 and CM2, she would be stronger, and actually be the strongest. You know what I mean? So like if Sasuke had good chakra control and mastery and was able to make full use of it, he would actually then be like technically the strongest, but because he doesn't, that's why he's not. And then most importantly, even if we're going off the quantification value, at most he could be 10 times stronger, okay? And while we're Rock Lee, he's dozens of times stronger anyways with the gates, So basically what I'm getting at is, even if like Sasuke was able to get to that point, in theory he would only be stronger than Neji, but when it comes to Rock Lee, he still wouldn't be stronger than him, So that's basically what you're working with for the most part, and that's basically overall. Just to conclude this video once and for all, guys, if you guys enjoyed the video, I really do hope you did. Make sure to leave a like and comment your thoughts down below, and subscribe for more. Subscribe if you guys love the channel as well. But that's basically what you're working with when it comes to Sasuke. So he's basically below Neji, he's below Rock Lee. He is above everyone else, like when it comes to like base Naruto, when it comes to Kiba, Shikamaru, things like that. Choji with the pills, that is a contentious area and debatable, and so on and so forth, but that could always be for another video. But either way, like, for the most part, Sasuke is one of the top contenders, but he's not the strongest. Again, he is far weaker than you actually think, which is what was put in the title of the video. And I hope that all this information basically just conveyed and showed you guys how far and how strong Sasuke really is. And, maybe this opened some eyes for some people. Maybe even for anyone that really thought Sasuke was really that guy or the strongest, maybe they will even realize that he's actually not as powerful as you think, So again, I hope you guys really enjoyed. And as always, guys, I'll catch you next video. Bye and out. Peace.
やめろ。いいんだ、カカシ。俺はもうダメみたいだ。体の右側はほとんど潰れちまって、感覚すら